All right. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Jomo Stewart and Mr. Jim Dotson here at the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation. I got the memo. Apparently, it's Blue Shirt Day, so I hope you have yours. I see Mr. Newman does. All right. And this morning, we are graced for our capstone presentation of 2021 to have with us Team Murkowski, Senator Murkowski's office, but also the goodly senator as well. So without further ado, I know that her time is short. She can only join us here at the top of the meeting, and then staff will continue with us through the infrastructure discussion, but I'd like to go ahead and give you the floor. So Senator Murkowski, so lovely to see you. Happy betwixt the holidays, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jomo. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you on your weekly meeting. And also to see you there, Jim. I think about those people in the Fairbanks community in the interior there who have just been constant and truly those individuals that when you want to know what's going on, you go talk to Jim. And Jim, your leadership through these many years. I was told it's 15 years. It seems hard to believe that it's been 15 years with the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation, and your leadership has just been, again, constant and resolute, and know that I, for one, absolutely appreciate all that you have done and all that you have given. I don't believe for a minute it means that you're actually, when you say you're retiring, it actually is going to mean less involvement, because you're just not that kind of guy. So I know we're going to continue to receive the benefit of your counsel and your participation, but just know how much I appreciate it. Jomo, you've got a lot on your plate, but you knew that going into it because you've been working this just about as long as Jim has. So appreciate your leadership at the helm there, and working again to do good things within the community. So we're talking about infrastructure bill here today, and I want to start my comments with a recognition that the opportunity to be working with a bipartisan group of colleagues to move this through the Senate in what I felt was a good, healthy, deliberative, difficult process. It was a very negotiated deal. We didn't get everything that we wanted. They didn't get everything that they wanted. But what we were able to do, I think, is deliver something that is important for the country, and certainly important for a state like Alaska that has been infrastructure poor for so long. So it is significant. There's going to be things, though, that you will find in this bill that you're not going to like, and know that you are in good company. I join you. But when we think overall at what we were able to do to really focus on core infrastructure, meeting our nation's needs for core infrastructure that we define as roads, rails, bridges, ports, harbors, water and sewer, broadband, that what we were able to do with this measure that will work to help create jobs, improve our economies, make us more efficient, make us more competitive, not add to the rising cost of inflation. The fact that we did this without raising taxes or blowing out the federal deficit, I think is pretty important. We started into this with a pretty poor infrastructure report card. Alaska is graded by the the American Professional Engineers. We got about a C- in infrastructure. Those of you that are involved in it every day might give it even less than a C-, but we know that we've got a lot of room for improvement. We've got more than 140 structurally deficient bridges, including several there in the interior. And so this is not only about shoring up what we have, but also the opportunity to help build out additional roads, help with additional bridges. I know we've been talking about the potential for rail expansion and what that might be able to do. So knowing that there's funding for our railroad, the opportunity to do more when it comes to expansion of some of our smaller runways in the area, but also there at Fairbanks International Airport. The water infrastructure, the electrical grid, the broadband, it really is focused in areas where I think it's fair to say highest and greatest need. So to some of the Alaska highlights, and these are things that you've probably seen in the papers already, but just again to highlight, it's $3.5 billion to the state for road repairs and road construction over the next 5 years. About $225 million for bridges. When it comes to broadband, the Alaska Telephone Association has estimated that based on the formulas and how we have defined criteria, that Alaska stands to be eligible for about $1.5 billion for broadband, hundreds of millions for water and wastewater projects, $75 million in supplemental funding for Denali Commission, which I think we all recognize can be a great facilitator for how these resources are able to come. When it comes to the energy and natural resources category, about $70 billion in total there. So to those of you that are focused as part of the Energy Task Force, know that in these categories, what we really tried to do was build off of the success that we made last year when we passed My Energy Act. We had authorized significant support in that measure, but it's one thing to authorize, it's another thing to do the appropriations. And I see Bart, LeBon sitting there. It's like, yeah, you can put in place, you can put in law great things, but if you don't have the money to back it, you don't have anything really going on. So the demonstration projects that we included in the Energy Act, I think, are going to be significant. We took the first real step in decades to improve mine permitting. We included language that I had authored as part of my American Mineral Security Act. So we put that in law, but we really did focus on mine permitting. We invested $825 million in mineral security. I think this will go a long way. And again, helping in Alaska, you know, you've got some great projects in the area there, but looking to how we can build out more of our world-class mineral base. We have new incentives and authorities to build out hydropower, other renewables, transmission lines. I think, again, an area that we can focus. We opened the Department of Energy's loan guarantee program to states so that what we can look forward to doing in Alaska is kind of bundling together a number of smaller projects and then apply for no-cost financing to build them. So that's an opportunity within DOE. We've got billions for carbon capture. Again, you know, look for ways to help in the region there. I think this is one area that will benefit Usabelli with new options as we're looking at that considerable resource there. Also, things like reducing the risk to wildfires through fuel breaks, thinning projects. When it comes to water and sewage utilities, one of the things that we included was we exempted the utilities from being taxed on their contributions in aid of construction payments. This is going to help over 55,000 people in the interior region by allowing Fairbanks Water and Sewer to avoid having to charge some higher rates. So I think you're going to see some direct benefit there. We did modernize the loan guarantee for the Alaska gas line that had been in law from years and years ago, but we have basically updated that so that the current proposed project can be made more commercially attractive. So that's kind of a sampling of what's out on the table now. You've got my team that's online, and of course, all of this is on our website, but anything that we can do to kind of bring you up to speed with what is contained in it. as passed by the Congress. But I think we all know that it's one thing to write the laws, get it passed, but the implementation is going to be a significant challenge for us. And it's coming quickly. We've already seen the EPA move some of the first dollars out the door on water projects, that we're just going to see that accelerate going forward. So what we're planning on doing is hosting a grant symposium in the early spring. What we're asking is that representatives from all of the agencies, from the federal agencies, the state, but kind of have a one-stop shop, if you will, to have the agencies outline some of the funding opportunities, how Alaskans can apply for them. Some of you may have participated in our grant symposium that we have done in previous years. I think the last year that we did one was either 15 or perhaps it was 2016. So with all of the grant funding that is going to be available, I think it's just really timely to re-up this symposium, because this is, we're going to see a significant amount of funding coming through formula, but we're going to have to be ready to compete for some of this funding. And so how Alaskans are going to be poised and ready to be competitive for these grant funds is going to be important. So I think now is the time to be double checking our capacity to monitor what is being offered, to write some solid applications for it. I can't tell you what to do, but I do think that it's probably worthwhile to devote some upfront resources to maximize the assistance that's going to be coming to our state. And I will just underscore this. The funding that Alaska will see is unprecedented. And it is in terms of legislation that I have been involved with, this is probably the most significant and potentially the most impactful that will ever come to our state. And so we've got to get this right. We need to be ready to go. And we know that we already are limited in our capacity for the professionals that will be required. And so it is, I keep saying it's an all hands on deck, but we are really going to be counting on our communities. This is why this call to FEDC is so important. How we begin to get ready to be competitive is really important right now. So please work with us. We're going to be working with you. We're going to be really keyed in on and focused on maximizing the value and the return to Alaska in all of these different areas. Before I sign off, and we're in the middle of votes. I've got one more, but I'm doing okay with time now. So I want to give as much as I can here. One thing that is not addressed in this infrastructure package, but that is clearly on your deck and you all deal with and talk about every week, is the military housing situation there in the interiors. We're looking to welcome the F-35s. I had a meeting with General Crum a couple weeks ago now, and he kind of read me into where he believes that we are in meeting the need for housing, not only with the arrival of the F-35s, but with the follow-on and the KC-146s that we anticipate. I think my takeaway from our conversation was he feels that given the steps that he has taken with regard to the unaccompanied airmen, I think he feels that we're going to be okay in meeting that need for housing for the F-35 squadrons. There's less assurance. I got less assurance from him about our capacity, the interior region's capacity with the tankers. And this, I cannot underscore enough the significance of this. Your delegation has worked aggressively and worked with you to make sure that the Air Force, the DOD is recognizing the significance of Eielson to our national security and are making the investments that they need to make. And we cannot fail on the readiness piece that is our requirement, which is caring for these families and making sure that we have the housing for them. We had a conversation with the governor last week, the delegation, and one of the things that he raised was he felt that there's a shortage of appraisers and a backlog of appraisals for those using the VA loan. We understand that that's a nationwide problem, but the difference for us in Alaska is that the shortage is connected to the bed down of a national security asset. So we're doing what we can back here to speed that up, get more appraisers up here. I think that's going to be important. But we really do need to be all hands. Once again, I'm using that phrase with regards to the housing. Anything that can be done to help de-risk the investments that will be made by the private sector out there to build out this housing, I think is going to absolutely be key. The other thing that and this was a piece that does tie into our infrastructure bill, even though the infrastructure legislation wasn't designed to focus or address on our defense needs, but the military can be a customer, a sustained customer for us. And when it comes to things like new hangars and runways and broadband services and other things that they will fund. So as we're thinking about how we move forward into this implementation stage of the infrastructure bill, I would just push you all to keep thinking about this dual use purpose out there. A few extra feet on a runway, a few extra square feet in a hangar could mean that the military has the ability to use it, and you got a good paying tenant for a long time to come. So it's something to just kind of think about in the back of your heads there. But again, we've got a lot that is in front of us right now. I'm excited about it, but I'm also a little bit anxious because I don't want us to be in a situation where we were back in the days of building the pipeline. We finally have this great opportunity to move an extraordinary resource, and we didn't have enough trained Alaskans to move in and do it. And so we brought a lot of fine people up from the lower 48. Many of them, thankfully, stayed and have continued to call it home. But we've always said, if we have another opportunity, if we have another gas line, if we have another opportunity, we want to make sure that we've got the trained people. Well, we're going to be needing to train people. We're going to need all the professionals that we can get, and we're going to have to be really on our toes in a competitive way. So with that, Jomo, I kick it back to you. I can stay on for probably about another 5 minutes. If people have questions of me to field this morning, I'm absolutely happy to do it. And just glad to be with you this morning.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I guess right at the top, I would say, you mentioned things like loan guarantees for the gas line, things to support development of our minerals beyond gold and copper, transmission lines, carbon capture. You mentioned basically, it sounds like we finally got a 10-year wish list funded, because those are all things that certainly we've worked on here in FEDC. So right at the top, thank you very much. I would like to open the floor for questions, but if I may, I'd like to start with Mr. Dotson.
Well, thank you, Senator. We appreciate your time today. One of the things that you mentioned is retire. I'm not planning on retiring. I'm just making way for Jomo to do a better job than I did. So we're glad to have him on board and looking to work with you in the future. As far as the military housing issue, one of the things that we'd like you to know is that we continue to work on it very hard. We did meet last week with the Chamber Board. The Chamber Board has decided to make military housing a legislative priority. So
Good.
that that's a big deal. Jomo told me in a meeting he had recently with the mayor. The mayor has decided to do some proactive work with military housing, making tax abatements available to those building in the military facility zone. That's good stuff. We just need to turn this around from a reactive action to a proactive. And you talked about the governor. We have people talking to the governor also about this. So and of course, whatever you guys can do on the federal level, is going to be helpful. But I like your analogy of the pipeline days, and we all stood out there and said, "Oh, we'll never let this happen again." And we're on the cusp of it, but we can turn that around.
Mm-hmm. That's good update, Jim, on the housing. It's nice to know. It's important to know that you've made it a legislative priority, because I think that's going to be necessary. I think we need to view this not as an interior project. This goes to national security, but this also goes to the broader statewide economy. To have these military assets located in the interior, located in Alaska, is really, really significant. And so making this a legislative priority and really elevating it, I think, statewide is what we need to do. It's not unlike what the Port of Anchorage has done in elevating the significance of that port statewide. Your military assets that you have, that you host there in the interior, are statewide economic development, but statewide initiatives.
And we believe that the tools we can have the state put in place will be helpful across the state, because it won't be localized just to this community.
Good.
I would like to offer a moment. I do see Representative Bart LeBon on. I would like to give him a chance if there is anything you'd like to question, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Jomo, and thank you, Senator, for joining us this morning. I've heard loud and clear about helping secure financing for the private sector to build out housing units in the interior. Alaska Housing can play a big role in that. And I do have experience with Alaska Housing, and one of my priorities is going to be to work with them to help fund loans. But it remains a challenge, just pointing this out, that the appraisal process, the value of the property in relationship to the loan amount and the cost to renovate or build, those numbers don't align. And it requires the investor to put a little bit more money into a project than what the appraisal number comes back. And that's just a reality. And trying to find a way to get around that, it was mentioned maybe there's ways to help on the backdoor side of the financing with grant assistance or deferred taxes or that type of thing. But that's just a market reality. Maybe it's unique to the interior. I doubt it. It's probably statewide, but that's something we have to face and work our way through. And other than that, thank you again, Senator. And one quick question about infrastructure dollars for roads and bridges and harbors. Is there a state requirement for matching funds in those dollars, or are they all federal dollars?
So it depends. Bart, as you know, there will be a great deal that will come by way of a formula to the state, and so the any match that might be required would be part of the formula that is already in play. Some of the grants will have requirements for matching. One of the things that we've heard, particularly from smaller communities, is the concern that we have extreme need, but we don't have the ability to do the match requirement. And contained within the measure, there are, particularly in the water and wastewater category, there are mechanisms, or I guess let's call them mechanisms, so that the match is taken care of. For instance, Denali Commission is able to address the match requirement. But I would be steering you wrong if I said that this is not going to be an issue that we're going to be up against. And so I think that's important for communities like Fairbanks to be thinking about, is you're going to have some participation in some of these. And so as you're seeking to prioritize and as you're seeking to budget, you probably want to get a real handle on what is that match requirement, and does that mean that this project is one that maybe we're not going to rank as high as others because of that. So there's a lot that we need to get mapped out, and as we get more of the specific details from the agencies on this is what we need to be sharing with you all really, really quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to hand off next if, I wanted to query Mr. Cook over at the hospital if there was anything that he might like to question on. Okay, hearing none. How about you, Miss Bailey, over at GBA?
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the opportunity. We have been looking through the infrastructure bill. We often talk, and especially right now as we're at -39, about electric prices and the impacts on development and on residents in the interior. So as we're looking through this bill, we're definitely looking for any opportunities that we might be able to capitalize on for future investments. I think any direction that your office can help us with as far as support in navigating that, and some real specific questions we have about some of the requirements we see, especially being in the interior where we do service some really rural areas, but as a cooperative as a whole, we service a larger area. If there's any specific people who can help us with that, that would be something that we could utilize right now. We are really trying to position ourselves to be ready to respond as soon as these grants are announced.
Good. Well, Meadow, on that, and I'm sure that you are spending a lot of time looking through these, but things that come to mind, obviously we have provisions as they relate to weatherization, efficiency, and so what we might want to do is within some of these accounts, as we're talking to some of the agency people, just be sharing with them perhaps some of the unique aspects of what you deal with there at GVEA. I mean, you do have a pretty diverse constituency that you serve there, and so let's help you with identifying some of these areas where, again, we can be working to bring down these costs where you just don't have any option when it's 40 below. And so this has been one of the things that Fairbanks has faced. You have agencies that say this is the direction that you have to take when it comes to reducing your particulate matter, but the ability to do so is not, it's just not practically achievable. And so making sure that it's understood that you've got limited options in a place like the interior where you don't have the benefits of every household being able to tap into natural gas.
And I think one of the things we're facing immediately, or that we see a need for, is upgrading the transmission line. We
Yeah.
do get a lot of our gas, obviously, from South Central. We have run into issues of supply. We do get a lot of hydro from Bradley Lake. We rely on that as far as to, keep down our emissions and also to keep down cost. But we do run into some constraints based on the limitations of the transmission line. So that resiliency and that ability to possibly tap into some of those sections, we're looking at as well.
Yeah, those are, I think that's going to be one of those, we're not talking a lot about the efficiencies that will come when we're able to enhance some of the transmission capacity. But I think this is going to be quite significant for us around the state. I am going to have to excuse myself and drop off the call to go to this vote, but thank you for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you this morning. Happy solstice coming up. You're going to round the corner pretty soon on losing these minutes of daylight. I'm looking at the background behind Bart there, and it looks like a pretty Fairbanks morning in December. So
Yeah, right.
Well, Senator Murkowski, thank you so much. I'm sorry we couldn't get to Mr. Britton and Ms. Hildebrand over at DOE, but again, we very much appreciate your time and the votes you've taken.
And I know we've got some of my team online, so hopefully they'll be able to field these questions. If not, I'll come back. So I don't know if you've got any more meetings before 2021 is over, but if you don't, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone.
And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you too, ma'am.
Take care.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, gang, again, Senator Murkowski's had to drop off, but members of her staff are online. Specifically, I saw Mr. Hickey, Keith. So I would open the floor to further questions. I also have pulled up, though I'm not sharing it yet, from Senator Murkowski's website. There's a pretty good list of the infrastructure dollars and to whence they flow on their website. And so I can pull that up, but just know that it is there. It's if you Google Senator Murkowski, it's at the very top of her senatorial homepage, this yellow banner. You can click on it and then download the document. So Caleb, I see you're, yes, there you are. So I would open the floor to questions. I saw, again, we might as well, if you'd like, Mr. Britton, is there anything, since we were already on energy?
No, just as part of the military housing discussion, I think it's important to remember the infrastructure that's necessary to support the builders as well. One of the things that we are challenged with is as new builds happen in North Pole, the infrastructure needs to spread out. We've got the phase one of the distribution system there built, which is about 70 miles, but we've got builders that are a mile or two in certain circumstances away from our existing distribution system, looking to build blocks of housing in the next year or two. And it's a challenge for us to figure out how to make that investment to get some new pipe out to them. So, the need to build not only, gas, but also, as Meadow indicated, some electric lines as well, and in some circumstances, possibly some of the water utilities as well. So that's something that we are working through daily here, and we'll look for opportunities for funding support to help with some of that.
Good observation, Dan. Mr. Dodson?
One of the things that we should collectively think about is something that Senator said, is putting together an infrastructure team, not only to talk about the needs that we have, but how do we put together the right resources to apply for these grants? Now is the time to get ahead of this. This is an infrastructure package, obviously coming from the federal government, but she also talked about, the infrastructure package that's going to come with the military buildup of the Arctic. And it really, those two issues kind of flow together. There's opportunity in both lanes. So, I don't know if FEDC can lead this. That's Jomo's decision, but somebody in the community, in the state needs to think about, who should be on this team and what should the team look like.
Speaking of those, some of the grant applications, a number of the entities across our community did apply for that Build Back Better grant. Unfortunately, it looks like the only two Alaskan projects that made the cut were in Southeast. But those were the applications that I saw for both IGU and CCHRC were excellent applications and excellent partnerships. So how we can build on those to achieve success in funding is something that we should and will all make a priority. Ms. Hewitt.
Okay, well, and I was going to say AML has got some grant writing assistance too. You may be able to tap in with AML. But I think they also recognize that we all need some help with that. To the senator's staff, I was concerned and I was hoping that you guys could put a little ask into NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Association. Anyway, they were the ones that were putting out some tribal broadband funds. And we were supposed to be notified in December, January on those funds, and they've now moved it back to spring. And by making us wait that long, we miss a whole construction season. And so I'm wondering if they might be able to prioritize the Alaskan requests a little bit sooner.
Thank you, Brenda. We're happy to check into that to see if there is any way that they can readjust that for Alaska. I hadn't heard that, but I'll check with our telecom team and we'll get back to you specifically and let you know.
Thank you so much.
That might be a good blanket request because our build season can be quite tight, certainly relative to anywhere in the lower 48. All right. Again, the floor is open. I don't have any specific questions. Mr. Adkins.
We should start right now working on getting the tap that's going to take from the main gas line to Fairbanks. I can see that coming as another stumbling block to Fairbanks. And that needs to start with educating everybody about what it's going to take and how that's going to work. And I also think that it should be tied to the price of the gas line. If the gas line passes from Meadow to Healy, it'll be, or to Nenana, it'll be 35 to 50 miles away from Fairbanks. That's a significant thing that should be covered by the cost of the pipeline. Another thing is the villages really should have some study on what it's going to take to get micronuclear into the villages. And that's going to take a while, of course, but now is the time to start thinking about that. And I think that there should be some money from this fund to the university to make that a formal effort at the university to figure out how that's going to be. There's a lot of different people involved in micronuclear, and the most important thing in my mind about it is the process should be efficient. Right now, nuclear is only about 2 or 3% efficient. Everything else is waste, which has caused a significant problem. We don't need to start another waste problem in Alaska. We can get 92% or 95% efficiency out of the base fissionable material, and that would mean a lot less transport of fissionable material and fissionable waste through and out of Alaska. I think that should be started now. It should be an effort from the local legislative people like Bart to get that started at the university. There's already a sort of an informal committee that has a presentation at 9 o'clock today on YouTube. And I think that's very important. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good comments, Ross. And I believe Senator Murkowski did say that there was some funding for cutting edge and micronuclear that did get built in. And I see Caleb, you're nodding.
Yes, that is right. The primary slowdown right now is that Department of Energy, these are new programs that they're going to be standing up, and they have told us that they need to hire 200 to 300 additional staff at DOE. So to implement some of the infrastructure programs. So that's what we've been working on recently, is to make sure that the agencies are actually proceeding with the hiring so that they can start getting the funding out the door in a timely fashion. But that's a great point. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Ask George if you've got any comments.
Yes. So, Mr. Rowe, since we're on that subject, anything from your wing?
Totally concur with the importance of thinking through on the application space for nuclear in Alaska. For those of you who don't know me, my name is George Rowe. I'm the director for the Arctic Energy Office at the U.S. Department of Energy. We are actively engaged in a catalyst group with the Office of Nuclear Energy, looking at how to ramp out the deployments. And a key thing is to make sure we take the reactors forward carefully in a progression where we can reduce the risk and improve the economics as we look at applications of different sizes. I personally believe, as Gwen Holdman shared during an earlier presentation, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, that the Eielson Air Force Base microreactor pilot project from the Air Force is a really important thing for us to be paying attention to, and perhaps seeing how we can build that out more broadly.
Okay, great. Thanks, George. All right. Again, I would just open up the floor. I don't really have any questions in the queue regarding the chat. And so if anyone has any questions or comments, they can just feel free to take themselves off mute and fire away. Although I will say that square in the middle of my screen is Miss Kathy Mayo. Okay, not jumping on that. Mr. Cook, I see you taking yourself off mute. Please.
Well, good morning. On the Eielson housing thing, I don't know what all's been done, but a number of years ago, quite a long time ago, because I think Jim Messer was highly involved in the chamber, there was a real housing crisis in Fairbanks, and it revolved around taps and other things. And there was a really good symposium put together where all the parties that could influence, from appraisers to lenders to builders, and discuss what were the obstacles, what could we do, the lenders, and it really was productive and turned out well. So I don't know if there's anything that's been done along that line or could be done along that line, but it sure was. I was looking not too long ago for the booklet. We actually produced a document out of that, but just a thought. And of course, when you talk about North Pole too, fortunately, as part of the settlement that Flint Hills came to, the water system is pretty widely distributed out there, and hopefully that'll be a help. Interestingly enough, the appeal on the litigation relative to all that is heard before the Alaska Supreme Court tomorrow. So with that, I'll sign off. Well, I won't sign off, but I'll shut up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cook. Just so for the record, it's been a little longer process, but yes, there is a housing task force that does include a number of the folks and representative groups that you named. We're starting to see real policy actions coming out of that, or policy proposals and firmer commitments to actually start moving forward on them. So that would be, as referenced by Jim, one is there's a proposal going to be advanced for tax exemptions and abatements to help spur development. I'm also hopeful that maybe some of this infrastructure money, particularly regarding water and sewer, can help make ground more valuable and easier on the developer to build. So things like that.
Yeah, one of the things we did in that process at some point was had a really open to the public forum at the Westmark, and got, sort of laid out what was going on, but took in a lot of other input. There's a lot of times ideas out there that are buried that you wouldn't think of in your normal process, but that public forum was what really brought it all together.
And that's a great idea, Jeff. I think we may end up doing that here at the top of 2022. Again, it's been it's not an insular group, it's actually quite large. But yeah, a little bit more public outreach is definitely going to be required. And we're going to move forward on that. By the way, if you find that housing report from that last group and can send it my way, I'd take it.
Yeah, I'd love to find it. Maybe somebody at the chamber can find it in their archives, but my archives we've been trying to filter those down the last few years.
Understood and understandable. All right. Again, I would open it up. I see you, Ms. Hildebrand, have popped onto my screen. And I also see Miss Lisa from over at the Northern Environmental Center. Do either of you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions or comments. I just appreciate you putting together these sessions. It's very valuable to our community. I think it's always good to put our best foot forward and talk about things to better improve our community. Thanks, Jomo.
Thank you. All right, well, we are getting to the top of the hour. Again, the floor is open. All right, if not, I would simply put in a request, which I know that you all would already be planning to take care of for us, Mr. Hickey, Mr. Caleb Froelich, and Miss Bailey, that when these meetings do come up, particularly regarding the grants, the walkthrough and the trainings, the number of us on this call would love to be a party to those and have access to that information. So if you can please make sure that we're in the know, we'll also do our part to help spread that message.
Well, thank you. We certainly will. As the Senator mentioned, that will be early in the next year, in the new year. We will get the invitation out to everyone. The plan is to have certainly a robust in-person availability, but if folks are unable to travel to Anchorage, then we will have a virtual option for those as well. So we look forward to working with everybody, and we are here to help too and provide as much support as we can on the grant writing option, write any letters of support that can be useful for folks, and speak to agency officials on your behalf. So please let us know what programs you are working on, and we are here to assist on those as well.
All right, very much appreciated. All right, well, everyone, this is actually our very last meeting of 2021. So you all will get a couple of weeks off. Again, happy betwixt the holidays, but also happy holidays coming, both to you and yours. As this will be Mr. Dotson's last meeting as my president and CEO, as my chairman for these meetings, I would offer it to you, Jim. Do you have any questions or final comments?
No, I just appreciate everybody attending this, particularly Senator Murkowski and her staff. It's vital that Fairbanks and Alaska get ahead of these type of issues. We talked about, pulling together, some type of infrastructure team to start working on the process. I know those are just words, but it's really important that we get ahead of this process and be part of the solution when it comes to building Alaska's future. So I thank all of you for working with us for the past several years, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future.
And this has been your Tuesday, sir, for the last 12 years at least. So I hope you will still join us from time to time.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone, again, no further meetings for the end of the year. We are going to possibly, I'm working on the start of 2022. So you can trust that when the new year comes around, we'll be firing this back up. I don't want to put them on the spot. No, I'll go ahead and put him on the spot. I'm really hoping that we can have Senator Sullivan, since we've just had Senator Murkowski to round out our 2021, that we might be able to have Senator Sullivan or his team to start off our 2022. He's been a major point guy, particularly regarding military issues for our state and our community. And so again, it's high on the level of priorities. Well, everyone, again, happy holidays. Happy belated Hanukkah. Happy pending Christmas. Happy New Year coming. Everybody just try to stay warm, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Jomo.